everybody. Welcome once again, people of Internet. This is the Squares of the Round Table podcast. I'm Mike Boyle, and this is episode number 14. I am celebrating by having a 7-7, because that is 7 plus 7. That's 14. Here with me to celebrate is my buddy Ivan.
Hey, how we doing? I'm no guy of 7-7, but here we are for episode 14, and of course, in the other corner is...
I'm Jeff Stein, and apparently today we're doing simple math.
Yay.
Yay.
It's Monday. Give me a break, all right?
No, I'll give you a break. Hey, look, let me tell you something.
All right, tell us something, Jeff.
I'm all for simple math because apparently things have to be simple because I don't know if you guys caught this week that the CDC put out a warning not to wash and reuse condoms.
That's how we're starting the show.
Yeah, I think that's how we're starting the show. It's been a long weekend, gentlemen. I ended up having to put in windows on Saturday, and oh boy,
it was not ideal weather. It was kind of nice on Sunday.
Yeah, Saturday. So it was Saturday. I'm sorry, not yesterday, but on Saturday we did windows, and it was 95 degrees. These guys got here at 8 o'clock like 8:15 in the morning. I don't know how they didn't need to take a break or go to the bathroom. They didn't leave till like 6. And the windows are nice, but honestly, there's still work to be done. But the windows are in. But it was a long day where it's like, it's crazy when you don't have any place to go and you're just stuck at home and it's no big deal. Just like, sure, I can be home. I'm good with that. But tell somebody you can't leave. And then it's like, God, get me out of here. I need to get out of here. Let me out of here. I want to go somewhere. Good Lord. So I think I was just a little bit crazy and cooped up, and it just seemed like it took forever. But, hey, I don't hear the train anymore, so I guess that's a good thing.
Are they using thermal pane windows?
I think so. You think I'd know that, right?
You were with the guys for, 10 hours?
Yeah, it's not like they exactly talked to me. They were busy doing their thing, and English was not exactly a first language.
See?
Oh, no, that wasn't their language either.
Polski?
They were of an Eastern European descent. See, this was lots less interesting than the condom thing. I'm just going to point that out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I read about the condom thing. I don't know what lame brain decided that, we could go ahead and reuse our condoms and rewash our condoms.
You're right. Windows is more interesting. So what color are they? Are they frames? Are they plastic? Are they wood? Are they metal?
Okay, Mike doesn't want to talk about condoms anymore.
No, I don't.
Nah, well, that's fine. I mean, I don't want to talk about condoms either. But
that's okay.
Windows are engaged in the condom discussion.
The truth is windows are merely condoms for your apartment. That's all there is to it.
Clear condoms.
Yeah, well, there's that. So, what about you? What do you guys have? You guys clearly had to have had a more interesting weekend than I did. So somebody save us from this conversation.
Ivan, what did you do this weekend? It was interesting, much more interesting than Windows installation.
Okay, well, I packed food for the AARP Feed the Hungry, Feed the Seniors event over at Wintrust Arena this weekend. I went out there with
which one?
I went out there with Julie. We signed up to volunteer to pack boxes for the senior hungry, and the goal was 1 million boxes. We got to, I believe, 750,000 by the time my shift was over with, and it was a very exhilarating and very much a lot of fun to do it. There were teams of 10. I was the boxer. We had a sealer. We had girls and guys, putting in ingredients. We were sending packages of jambalaya and packing them in these boxes. And we did our fair share to help the senior hungry. And there's 1 in 7 seniors that goes hungry in Illinois, which seniors shouldn't be going hungry. That's the thing I don't understand. But it exists. It's a real thing. And it was most heartbreaking going through the corridors and seeing the presentations that were put before us on videotape. And it was just, it floored me how truly bad the situation really is in Chicago and most of the country. So, Julie and I, we put our hands in and we fed the senior hungry this weekend on Saturday.
So
Friday,
Ivan, where's the Wintrust Arena?
The Wintrust Arena? The Wintrust Arena was downtown 200. Wait a minute, I had the address on the top of my head. Doggone it.
Was it on the north side or?
Yeah, it was in the city. It was just south of the city.
Is that new, Wintrust Arena? I'm just not.
Yeah, I think that's where the Bulls are playing now.
No, that's whatchamacallit.
That's the United Center.
That's the United Center. Okay, I'm looking it up. Okay.
Okay, look it up. But yeah, Wintrust Arena, WINTRUST Arena.
Oh, it's down by McCormick Place. Okay, I guess this is where DePaul's going to play.
There it is. Okay.
Okay, now this is a different venue. Okay.
It's beautiful. It's really, really beautiful.
I'm surprised though. According to this, it only holds a little over 10,000 people. I mean, don't get me wrong. That's not a small amount, but you think if you were according to this, if you're building it for people who aren't from Chicago, McCormick Center Place is the huge convention area for the Chicago area, and literally it takes up blocks. The thing is huge. I mean,
McCormick Place, yeah. I mean,
right,
it's
almost its own animal. But apparently, this arena, which I was not aware of, is part of it. And if I don't know, maybe it's just me. I'm kind of looking at this going, boy, why didn't they build a bigger building?
Well, I don't know, but all I know is it held all of us in there, and
sure.
we were doing our fair share, and it was wonderful. Thousands of people attended this thing, and it was good. I mean, yeah, we were tired. I mean, the night before I was at the Royal Palms Shuffleboard Club, and before that I was at Mather's Cafe DJing. So it was a full day of DJing on Friday, and then doing the volunteer work on Saturday. Then I did my layback wayback lounge on Sunday. So it was a pretty busy day for Julie and I, and doing a number of different things. Looking forward to getting away August 24, actually on the 23rd. We're going to be getting away to wonderful Peoria, a few hours away from the city. Going to go check out some amusements that way and take in the hot tubs and the swimming pools and the fine dining. Yeah, getting away for a weekend for my birthday, so I'm looking forward to that after all this work is said and done. But yes, it was.
So Ivan, tell us about the club. When you're DJing, what kind of music usually are you running? I mean, is it Dusties? Is it current pop? Is it house? Is it hip hop? What are you DJing?
Okay, well, I'm what they call an open genre jock. So with Mather's Cafe, most of the music goes from the 1940s to like the early 1970s, rock and pop and, just your regular top 10, 20, 40, or 100 type dusties, oldies and things. Okay, with the Royal Palms Shuffleboard Club, it was a little bit more heavier on the soul and the rhythm and blues, plus some jazz thrown in there, kind of giving it a North Carolina beach vibe, which I was creating for that particular event. And the Layback Wayback Lounge is basically me pulling out all of the Frank Sinatra's, Rat Pack, Mel Torme's, and Wayne Newton's, and it's a little more jazzy and a little bit more literally laid back, kind of atmosphere to, read your books, play some games, play some cards, talk with your friends, and that type of vibe. And then starting in 2 weeks, I'll be doing a sweet soulful Sunday set, which will be all soul and rhythm and blues, but more of the slower, more easier rhythm and blues music of the 40s all the way through to the 70s and such. So
how far down the road do you go rhythm and blues? I mean, we like, for example, I'm trying to think off the top of my head somebody current for rhythm and blues, like like for example, what about like Mary J. Blige? Is that in your set list or no?
I don't venture much into the 80s urban contemporary as much as I used to do years ago, or the 90s urban contemporary. That only happens on very seldom occasion, but I do play them from time to time, but not as a steady diet per se. I mean, I played Keisha Cole at one set about 2 weeks ago, along with I did some Diddy, I did some 12s. I did some 12s at Cafe Mustache. Of some of the more progressive dance music, if you will. I did mixes of Funky Town, but it was remixed through a whole nother group of DJs. So, I do from time to time I do go into that arena, not a lot. I guess my stock in trade is basically, I would say, like from the 80s, like 80, 85 being my cutoff. I tend to venture more into the 90s when it comes to the rock and roll that I play on the.
Like, what would you be like for 90s rock? What's in your playlist?
Well, Soundgarden, Nirvana, Weezer, some grunge, and then, your Bon Jovi's, your Kingdom Comes, your Rats, your Kisses, let's see, Motley Crue, let's see, Nitzer Ebb, Bronski Beat, which that's not rock, but that's more dance, but that's some of the other stuff I've been known to play.
Hey, I got a question. I don't want to throw things off the direction, and I certainly want to get Mike in this, but I'm curious.
What's that?
When I was, this will date me. I was born in the 70s, and I grew up in I went to high school mostly throughout the 80s.
Yep.
Right.
Metal today is pretty much dead, right? I mean,
metal music as we've known it in the 1980s, and in the early 1990s, pretty much is like there's pockets of it, but it's not the mainstream thing that it was numbers of years ago. Whereas you go ahead and you had radio stations actually dedicated to that type of genre of music. No, as far as like real heavy metal music, there are pockets out there, but it's not the unified genre that it once was. It doesn't have the type of it doesn't have the presence it once did.
Right.
So yeah, a lot of metal, a lot of the people that made the metal music are, pretty much, it's a type of music. It's very hard on the performers, and you can do that for only so many years until finally, like Axl Rose, he tore his voice all up, from Guns N' Roses after a while. And have you seen David Lee Roth lately?
Do I want to?
No, you don't. There was a episode of Jimmy Kimmel that I watched, and Van Halen was, I think, going to go out and start a tour, and they opened up on Jimmy Kimmel's show, and David Lee Roth looked like a total burnout. He was like skeletal. He looked awful.
Wait a minute. Sammy Hagar wasn't there?
Sammy Hagar was not there. Nope.
Yeah, I think there was a period of time when Hagar was out. Well, they brought back Roth for a period of time. And then it's funny, they kicked Roth to the curb for the guy who was the lead singer in Extreme, right?
Whoa.
Right.
Yeah, the one who sang that More Than Words song, which wasn't bad, but after a million times of radio play, you're like, okay, make it stop.
Yeah, it got old fast, and that was their one hit, and they tried to stay legit, but their third album tanked because...
Wait, you heard the third album? I didn't get past the first song.
There was the song More Than Words was a label-obligated ballad. That was a lot of these bands. They had to put out a ballad.
Right.
And More Than Words was their obligated ballad. And it was a huge hit. But then then the next album, they wanted to show that they were still a legit hard rock band. No ballads on that one. Guess what? It didn't sell.
Well, it's just what happened to Mr. Big with To Be With You. That was the same fate that happened to Mr. Big. They had another hit called Just Take My Heart, but then as soon as they did the obligated ballad in To Be With You, acoustic ballad no less, and that ended up being a huge hit, but then that ended up being their swan song.
I remember them being an opening act for some bands, and people were booing them off the stage until they sang their one hit, and then that was their closer because that's the one everyone wanted to hear.
Right. Well, it was just like when I went to go see Alice Cooper, and Alice Cooper down at the New World Theater, and they had Dokken, they had Warrant, and they had Kingdom Come open for Alice Cooper.
Yeah, Alice had just played the Wisconsin State Fair, I think.
And Alice Cooper, for everything he's been through, he's still a relevant situation, unlike what happened to Ozzy Osbourne, who got kind of lost in the whole television and reality show situation. Yeah, when he came out and started making records like No More Words, and I believe that was in the late 1990s, early 2000s, I believe. And
the early days of reality TV, yeah.
Right. So, okay, whatever happened to Lita Ford? Kiss Me Deadly. Which also too, speaking of women rockers, there's a documentary coming out on Joan Jett is coming out very shortly. About her time, in the rock and roll world. And she went to go take some lessons from a guitar teacher. Guitar teacher told her, well, girls don't rock and roll. And that pretty much lit her fuse and got her out there pretty much. She had a group called the Runaways, and then from there, I Love Rock and Roll, and the next thing you know, everything exploded after that. And she, between her and Pat Benatar.
I was about to say, hit me with your best shot, yeah.
Fire away.
Yep. So, yeah, but as far as like the heavy metal presence in music today, there are pockets of it that people still enjoy, but as far as like drawing the crowds and drawing the people to the stadiums and the theaters, not so much. It's all been pretty much replaced by the auto-tuned dual harmonic.
What's left as far as hard rock or metal? I think it's just the Foo Fighters.
And they just did Wrigley Field recently.
They 2 days at Wrigley Field. Yeah.
Are we talking about new music, or are we talking about new music, or are we talking about just touring?
Well, they did their thing over at Wrigley Field, and from what I read about them, they kind of got panned out as old man dad rock, which it's kind of cruel considering the fact that they're the Foo Fighters and they're still making music.
No D, Ivan, just Foo Fighters.
Yeah, just Foo, not Foo.
Foo Fighters.
Yeah.
Okay, well, Foo Fighters. Okay, sorry. And then with Lollapalooza that happened over the weekend.
Lollapalooza. That's awesome.
Yeah, More par for the course, folks.
I just wonder, I had friends who were really into the metal scene, and I wonder how much what hurt metal was. There was a mentality amongst metal fans, and when we used to work together, we used to do Rebel Radio, we used to hear them talk about this all the time, about the fact that it was really hard to get metal fans sometimes to buy the product because they would do things like, oh, I'll just tape it off the radio and I don't have to buy it. Or there were a lot of things where it was like, okay, I don't want to buy that, or I'm not going to buy this, or I'm not going to buy that. And I don't want to stereotype metal fans, but there was enough of a market where, I remember, what's his name, Scott Davidson was on the air one time going, look, we need people, and this again was for Rebel Radio, going, look, we need people to go to sponsors. We need people to buy the records, because otherwise you're not going to hear metal on the radio. And I just wonder if that's really why metal is dead.
Okay, well here we go. As far as what happened with Scott Davidson, I have the first report on what happened to Scott Davidson in Rebel Radio.
No, we're not about Rebel Radio. We're talking about the genre, the music genre.
Yeah, but this has a lot to do with it, though. Listen to what I'm about to say. Okay, and that is when Scott would promote, for shows, and then a lot of people didn't go to the shows. Okay, he would promote the records. A lot of people didn't buy the records. And a lot of people didn't support the genre. Wow. Not only that, the fact that record companies being the cutthroats as they've always have been, whereas, yeah, you had a hit record with the first album, you toured that album. Okay, that album paid to make that album. And the band made their money from touring. Now, the trick was to make the lightning strike twice, which a lot of them failed to do. Not only that, a lot of the labels at that time were doing a 3-album policy. And by the third album, if you didn't make a return on their money, you were dropped. So that's what was happening to a lot of the heavy metal band that were being recorded at the major labels. That's why a lot of them went to independent or minor labels or just started releasing things themselves to at least try to feed their families and just try to take care of their overhead. But, metal being what it is, and then also, too, you had the people that starred in the heavy metal situation that pretty much made it hard on the reputation of the genre itself. You had guys, getting too high or getting too drunk, canceling shows and falling on stage and putting out bad publicity, or they would do things outside of the programming, and then it just became a liability. Metal bands became a liability.
None of what you just said, but like, for example, okay, yes, that may be true with certain people, but there were big-time mega bands that did put out a lot of albums, like AC/DC.
Oh yeah, but okay.
Forgive me, because I'm never sure where hard rock and metal, where the line between hard rock and metal. Because technically, to me, Motley Crue is metal, but we won't get into. Is hard enough.
Motley Crue is more your metal band.
Right.
AC/DC is more of a rock and roll band. AC/DC is along the side of, say, the Ramones.
Right, but the point I'm getting at is, Ivan, is that those bands existed and they were out there and they were making multiple records and they were doing just fine. There were enough bands out there along those lines that the genre was there. But it seems as though it just kind of disappeared from radio play, and either based on what you're saying, or that, like I said, the other thing to me is, and this is just something I ran into, and you know what I'm talking about. You've seen it, and Mike, I think you have too, where you had those friends in the '80s where it was like, oh, you're gonna go buy that out, you're gonna go buy the album, and they'd be like, No, man, I'm gonna record it on my cassette player, and now I got it. And why do I have to buy it? I got it on cassettes. I'm good.
Well, yeah, well, that's true. There was a lot of taping going on. That's true. That led to a big part of the fact that nobody bought the albums, nobody bought the records, and then a lot of, especially after the 1980s when records started going into lower numbers and CDs became the thing, and then back in the early days of the CDs were expensive.
Same as an album, it's like $17.
Yeah, well, if you had your choice between getting the album at, $12.99 against the CD at that time, which was almost $20, yeah, but also too, why have either the CD or the album when you heard it on the radio and you taped it off the radio, or you had a friend who bought the album and then lent you the album and then you taped the album on your cassette and you copied it.
Right.
So basically half the people took half the money that would have been in prospective sales and basically just got the music for free.
I remember in the early 90s when the first rack of used CDs made their way to my local record store.
Yeah.
And that became a hot button issue for the labels.
Yeah.
Because they weren't getting any of that money.
I mean, so here's the irony in all this that we're talking about this. Like you said, Ivan, there was a period where, it was $20 to buy a CD. And really, in reality, for certain people who are sitting there, who are younger, who are sitting here listening going, we sound like a bunch of old guys. Yeah, we do sound like a bunch of old guys, but the point I'm going to is what we see today, which is there's a reason why you can go on iTunes and buy it for 99 cents, which is, you know what? It was overpriced, and I can't blame people because there were times where I'm like, I'm not paying for that. I'm not paying for an album. And when I say an album, it could be a cassette, it could be a CD, it could be a record where there might be one hit on this entire record. Why am I buying this record?
So now you get one song for $1.29.
Right, exactly. And the other thing, and that's the thing, and to me that's the amazing part is now people are selling songs for $1.29. Okay, you don't need all the they still are doing all this album cover work and all this stuff and some of the CDs and all this stuff that's out there. That still exists. That stuff is out there. But
yeah, I mean,
but think about the markups that they had to be at on some of that stuff. They had to be somewhere in the neighborhood. I would bet they were anywhere between 70 and 90% markup.
Well, I could tell you they were 150% markup.
Yeah, was that high? Okay.
Because I worked in a record store for years, and for the new end of it is against the old end of it. Yeah, but also too, not going into the whole. Everybody yelling, well, vinyl is back. Sorry, vinyl was always here. It just went underground for a bit until all of a sudden, the baby boomers, kids were starting to dive into the collections of their moms and dads, and they're like, why does this sound so good? Why does this sound so full? Why does it sound so this? And it became the thing. The bands were like, wow, that'd be cool to put out a record. And then they found out, yeah, maybe we could make a record against the cost of making a CD. And then now, also too, with what happened with the CD, the so-called forever, undullable, unbreakable, whatever you want to put in front of the word, the CDs were no more dependable after 2.5, almost 3 decades.
Yes, I remember reading an article about CDs made in the early 80s are starting to disintegrate. And there are some archives in the Library of Congress that are having to be replaced because the older CDs they put in, thinking they're going to last forever, are not.
No, well, of course, they're breaking down like any physical media breaks down. Right. So this is why you're finding people like the Library of Congress now putting everything into flash drives, into hard drives, into a non-physical digital media, because any media that's a physical media is going to break down over time. It's gonna disintegrate over time, just some more than others. And the miracle CD that everybody was banking on turned out to be yet just a whole nother thing. I mean, I've transferred CDs that I made just 15 years ago to new CDs. But yet here it is, I still have all my analog tapes, and I took care of those tapes, and they sound as good as the day I recorded them. So there's that type of a situation where it was a trade-off. Everybody was giving their records in and giving away their records to go to the CD. Now, you go to the record stores. In fact, there's a lot of places now that they dropped all their CD stock. Best Buy stopped selling CDs.
Best Buy's done with CDs now.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
I gotta be honest. I can't remember the last time I bought a CD. It's gotta be the early 2000s. It's gotta be before really digital music really hit hard.
Well, after Napster came out there and started flooding everybody with all this music, and then once they reined that in, and then they started legitimizing it, and yeah, you could get the one song for 99 cents or 129 now, and everything, and made the download thing a reality, because we're a society now. It's who cares about liner notes? Who cares about cover art? I just want to hear the record. I just want to hear the song. Sorry, and that's what it became. But now,
you want to know why? Because you know what? Because if I want to know something about the record or I want to know something about the song, I go to Wikipedia. I look it up.
Exactly.
I look it up. I can look up anything I want about that song. I can find out anything I need. There's a million articles on that song now.
Right, exactly. And because the internet has made it accessible to all this information, I mean, the art part of it, the creative process of it, has pretty much gone dormant. And with that being the situation for, I want to say, almost 2 generations now that have downloaded music and didn't bother with liner notes or didn't bother with pictures or what the artists look like or any of it. I like the song, so I put it in my little shuffle thingy, iPod thingy, and I put it in my ears. It sounds okay because it's in my eardrums and my headset and everything like that. And what do I care? And that's all I wanted for a long time for a lot of people.
But they're turning around. Oh, the tables have turned. The turntables have turned. Pun intended.
And they turned, and how? Because once you had people like me sitting around playing records outside, and you get the young teenagers listening to the sound of what I'm playing against what they're playing on their iPods, they're like, why does it sound like that? It doesn't sound like that on my iPod. Wow, the guitar's raging, the drums are loud, the bass is throbbing. It's alive. And a lot of people...
Well, I mean, like you said, here's the thing. But this was the stuff we were talking about when CDs became a thing. And I remember having these conversations with people at the time, which is, yes, the quality level of the CD is clearer and those aspects. However,
it's soulless.
Because you went away from vinyl, you lost a lot of that warmth and that feeling and aspects that you can't get from a CD because it loses that because of the way that it's recorded on that particular medium. So,
exactly. It doesn't translate. An analog media does not translate into zeros and ones, because when you go into the realm of zeros and ones, everything gets squashed down, or the word I'm looking for is compressed into this little itty-bitty file. But while you're busy crushing it into this little itty-bitty file, you're losing so much of the dimension that makes that song sound so good and gives all that song that density, that fire, that warmth, that feeling that, yeah, you're there. The CD realm made it sterile, is what it did, and soulless, especially in the first incarnation of the CDs, whereas they realized that transferring from the tape to the CD, they lost a lot of that. That's why you noticed a couple years later in the 1980s, the word remastered started appearing on those CDs, because they went back and said, well, I think we might have jumped the gun on the sonics of this CD. Let's run it through some of our old analog resources, some of our old analog amps, some of our old analog equipment.
Ivan. You remember when CDs first came out and you had those 3 letters? You had AAD or DDD. How about where the digital transfer occurred and where it came from analog and when it didn't?
Right.
Remember those? And most people might not recognize that, or might not have even paid attention to it. But some of the early CDs, it was an analog source that was transferred to digital.
Right.
But then the newer CDs, as they came out, all the stuff was recorded digitally, whether it was on DAT or just into a hard drive.
Uh-huh.
And then transferred to CD.
Right. See, because they needed that platform, they needed that sonic platform to give the sound a thickness, a sense of density, in order for it to be played back the way that you remember it from the record's point of view. Basically, what they were trying to do, they were trying to teach the CD to be more like a record. If I have to put that in layman's terms. So, and they got maybe about 80 to 90% about that, but then it still lacked in certain things, especially depending upon the source material. Because here it is, if the source material had its imperfections, the CDs amplified those imperfections because of what it is. Unless you went digital, straight to digital, and released it on digital, where you're going to be able to represent the nuances of that CD to the best of its ability. So here you got a bunch of guys who are trying to recreate the great albums of the past. Well, those engineers aren't mastering those albums. You got guys who are looking at the old mastering books, trying to replicate that sound onto CD. And more times than not, they miss the mark, and that's why a lot of those CDs aren't quite what you remember the album sounding like. And then because of the CD's platform, it amplified these nuances and imperfections of that. So that's why when you buy the CDs and you see that they're set up in a way where, we got the original engineer, or we got the person's board log, we did it according to the board log, just like when they re-released the Beatles catalog and such, and they went back to the original board log of George Martin.
Yeah, they did that in 2009, because it was being 999.
So, and they found that they were able to replicate it as close to what the album sounded like with the CD platform being what it is. So this is why this is what the attraction of the vinyl is all about, because when you're at a concert and the bass shakes you and you feel the throb of everything happening in the air, how it hits you, how it moves you, and that record is probably the truer representation, because of that experience being organic and that record being made from an organic situation is probably going to be the closest representation of what you're going to get from that performance being what it is. And so that's the attraction now to the new bands and to the new people that are creating music. They want that warmth. They want that depth. They want that feel. And also a record kind of makes you slow time down because you have to go and put it up and drop the needle down.
Well,
and then after one side and then turn it over and then listen to the other side. Or if you just want to listen to the one single 45, or it makes you, it engages you in the experience of listening to the music because you have to interact with it in order to make it so. Unless you have an automatic player, which they're starting to make again, believe it or not. But that being what it is, or if you have a jukebox, which you push buttons down and you get the singles to play automatically, which jukebox sales have been going through the ceiling again. In fact, I hate using the word Crosley, but that's the reality of it. Crosley even recreated its own jukebox that you could actually put records in and work with now. And other companies are starting to follow suit. But do I see records being around for a long time? I got a feeling it's going to be around for a while. I'm not going to say 20, 30 years, but I'm saying it's going to be around for a while.
I think here's the thing, though, Ivan. Here's the other part, and this is something. I mean, part of this is guessing. Part of this is just what I've seen.
Okay.
Which is when you're looking at a lot of the rap and the hip hop guys today, they're looking at, keep in mind, they grew up on the likes of your NWAs, your Snoop Dogg's, a lot of those guys, and those guys, they were doing full records of stuff like that at the time.
Oh, absolutely. That's their stock in trade.
And there's a hipness factor for somebody like a Drake to drop an LP. I mean, especially when you see a guy like Jay-Z or Kanye West sit there and go, all right, yeah, I'll drop a real LP with a real vinyl sound. And those guys, because those guys are looking for real good sound and real good sound quality. So really, in reality, it doesn't shock me at all. And really, I don't think vinyl's going anywhere. I don't know if it'll continue to be as popular as it is now, but I think it'll stay popular in pockets.
Okay, well, here's what you're expressing to me on that point, and you're right. As far as the guys who are doing dance and hip hop and dance music, I mean, all of that.
They use vinyl in the clubs.
They use vinyl in the clubs exclusively. Yes, you do have your Serato guys that they can match the BPMs on the screen, and they do all that. But you got some of the guys. You got guys like Frankie Knuckles and people like them that in their day who went ahead and they mixed those beats down and those samples and those loops off of those 12-inch records. And you get these guys who are coming up with milk crates of 12-inchers and creating that sound off of those 12-inch records, going crate digging and trying to find those things for their own individualistic styles that they created either from different records or from different beats, from different foundations. And that's still happening today. I mean, I seen it for myself. When I worked at the record store, and you get these guys coming in and they're going to the listening station and they're looking for cuts and they're looking for samples and they're looking for they're looking for things to layer and build and loop and do whatever and cut. And and so as far as in that part of the musical spectrum, the house and the hip hop and the dance and the trance, the electronic, the industrial, 12s will be a relevant source probably a lot longer than, say, the rock and roll albums or the music albums and or the singles. And then also to the other part of the spectrum is the reissue spectrum, which they're still trying to get a handle on that. In fact, in the last 5 years, we've had 2 new plants open up. Jack White of the White Stripes, he opened up Third Man. The White Stripes.
You mentioned that he's opened his own factory.
He opened his own plant.
Yeah.
Third Man Records. In fact, one of the biggest things that happened was a local record store in Detroit found a third copy of a coveted Motown 45, Do I Love You by Frank Wilson. Only thought that there were only 2 other copies in the world. They found a third copy in this store, and they sold that record to Jack White for $75,000. And for Record Store Day, they repressed that 45. Now, anybody can have a copy of that coveted record, which of course drives down the price of the other 3 that are out there, but at the same time, it keeps something in the musical vein, just like many of the great artists of the past. And a lot of these artists that never got their due are getting a second life through re-releases on vinyl and such, not only just because the music is great, but it's on the format for which it was meant to be.
It's on a format that's on a popular trend. It's in trending back up.
You know, I got an interesting story for you, though. And when we did Roots and Influences back over at WEF 1430, we had a band there called The Good. And here's 6 guys that they had a CD that they brought to the station. It was one of our interviews. I believe, were you there?
No, I was not there for that one.
Okay, so here it is. They came down, and we talked about it over the phone. Says, hey, why don't you guys do an acoustic version of this album that you did? And they did just that. And I mastered everything off of 2 microphones and onto both reel and cassette. Fast forward 20 years. I'm working over at Logan Hardware Records. Guess who walks in through the door? But one of the members of The Good selling his album, his double album. I have a copy of it in my collection. And we started talking, and then he remembered who I was. And now we're currently talking about maybe getting that session from Weef released. Because I think maybe due to the fact that maybe it was never done ever again in the realm of the band.
Did you keep the recording of that?
Absolutely.
So the band has a recording and you have a recording?
Well, no, they don't got a recording of it yet. I still have the masters.
Oh, you have it. Okay.
I have the masters. So I know I don't know if I gave them a copy of the tape or not. I'm not sure. But I still have the masters to all that. I still have the uncut with the interview. I still have the one with all the music on it and everything. And also, too, I got some news coming up, but that's going to be for a show in the future. I also have a 45 that's actually coming out. Not me, but I helped a group get them connected to a record label, and now there's a record coming out, and the gentleman who owns the record label, named me producer out of the generosity of who he is. Oh. But that's for sometime in November. But yeah, it's the music business is by and large is still something very much in the center of what's going on musically nowadays. And,
interesting times, yeah.
As far as CDs are concerned, it amazes me. We had thousands of CDs in the record store, and maybe sold a handful within the course of a week. Next to the albums, which we did more sales in a week with albums, and the writing's on the wall as far as the CDs are concerned. Well, if the CDs will ever become a solid product again, only time will tell. But right now, it seems like vinyl is enjoying a renaissance of sorts, as if that's the right word to use.
Yeah, that's correct. No, that's interesting.
So, it's kind of funny, Mike. Now that we've gone this long, Mike, what did you do this weekend?
Oh yeah, hey, 50 minutes in, it's like, hey, yeah. We're still in the introductions part here of the show. So we appreciate everyone's patience here this morning or this afternoon or whenever you're listening to our podcast. We appreciate you.
Somewhere
What did I do this weekend? I hooked up with my friend, and we saw 5 more episodes of Cobra Kai.
Oh, yeah?
I'm all in. I love this flippin' show.
Is
this
it?
is so
Okay.
cool. It scratches enough of the, remember that South Park episode where they talked about the member berries?
No, I don't.
No, it's nostalgia. It hits the nostalgia points, but it's still good television. It's good drama. Some might say it's a little too convoluted, like It's a Small World, but I dig the character interactions. I like the character arcs of some of these young people, because you're dealing with Johnny, who's recruiting this one student to join his dojo. He's bringing back Cobra Kai because he's tired of seeing Daniel LaRusso's face on the billboard of his car dealerships. Yes, this Cobra Kai show, I'm loving it. I'm 6 episodes in. I got 4 more to go. We're going to see him maybe in a couple more weeks. We'll hook up again. We'll finish this series. The second season has already been greenlit. I don't think they've filmed it yet. But yeah, Cobra Kai, I love this show.
All right.
Maybe I'm just playing it too much. I might be overhyping it for you, Jeff.
Yeah,
I'm setting you up for disappointment already, but no. But no, I'm digging it. I'm all in. I love it.
Fork over money to give you to pay for it.
I just pay for 1 month. It's worth it.
Yeah, my problem is I never remember it's only 1 month, and I end up paying for more. So
anytime I get into a monthly subscription, I'm paranoid like that. The same day I subscribe, I will already make sure my settings are correct where I will not automatically re-up the following month.
Right.
But, yeah, I mean, I think that's the thing, where right now it's like, there's so much stuff that I have right now to watch that I don't feel like that I'm already getting or I'm already paying for, that I'm like, okay, I don't need to pay for this right now. I think I think at some point I will watch it, but not right now. I saw you played Space Hulk.
Yes.
Sunday night. So for people who've never played, tell us about Space Hulk.
This was the first edition of Space Hulk, where Games Workshop back in the late 80s, early 90s, the game Space Hulk is a derivative of Warhammer 40K, which is their bread and butter. Pretty much Warhammer 40K to Games Workshop is what TSR used to be to Dungeons & Dragons. It was their main IP. But this is a derivative of that, but the game is kind of based on the movie Aliens.
Okay.
Where you're in these corridors of this spaceship, and you're walking down the corridor, and the tile, each room or hallway, it's all interchangeable, like a puzzle.
Mm-hmm.
We can build. It's like a board game where you can make different maps and different environments. And the Space Marines, they got the guns, but then there's the aliens who come at you really fast and they can rip you up. So it's super fun. But mine's the first edition, and I remember back in the 80s from Gen Con, and we opined at great length last week about Gen Con. If you listeners out there would like to go back and listen to our going back down memory lane about Gen Con last year, those were days back in Gen Con back in the 90s. Where my friends and I would play Space Hulk, and we loved it. But anyway, that was fun. We had a great time. Of course, the Marines won. I always usually play the aliens because it's my game. But oh well. What else? Oh yeah, we had Gen Con. Speaking of more bringing back nostalgia, this last weekend was Star Trek Las Vegas, and I guess apparently lots and lots of stars from pretty much every Star Trek series was there. I mean, Shatner, Takei, a lot of the stars from TNG, DS9, Voyager, even the new Star Trek Discovery. And the shot heard around the world was that Patrick Stewart will reprise his role as Jean-Luc Picard in a new Star Trek series that will probably be only available on CBS All Access. But we don't care. It's going to be Jean-Luc Picard. It's going to take place in the Prime timeline, not the Kelvin timeline, which is the J.J. Abrams movies. It's super duper exciting. Glad to see Jean-Luc Picard back in any capacity after what happened what was after that shit show that was Star Trek Nemesis? Man, that was not good.
Well,
that was not a good finale to the TNG saga.
You know, now that you say that, the Star Trek Next Generation movies, the ones that went to actual movies,
yeah,
were never as good as the TV show. And I'm convinced one of the problems is whoever wrote those freaking movies, I mean, they write Jean-Luc Picard in the movies sometimes almost like as if he's freaking Kirk. You know, where there's sections where it's like, okay, now we're going to have a fight sequence with Jean-Luc Picard. Well, no offense, Jean-Luc Picard was never really much of a fighter.
No, they made a point of that in Star Trek Generations when Malcolm McDowell kicked his ass, and then he had to bring Shatner in to help kick ass.
Yeah, but there are too many times where later on there were sequences like that, and you're just like, okay, I'm confused. I feel like they lost something from what they would do on TV to the movies. It just didn't translate, and I'm curious to see where it goes.
Yeah, but it's great news.
I don't know. I like the Next Generation stuff. I'm curious if it's just him and new people or what they're going to do.
Yeah, how many cast members are going to return? I mean, how many will reprise their roles, like cameos and all that? Mm-hmm. What is he going to do? Is Picard retired? He's gone to the vineyard in France? Is he still going to be in Starfleet? Or what? So, Gesundheit. What was that?
Don't die, Ivan.
Wow. Whoa.
Ivan is dying. We must save the Ivan.
Wait.
I'm doing fine. Sorry.
Okay.
Are you sure?
Yeah,
Whoa.
okay.
All right. But yeah, that's interesting news, so that's fun. That's the great news of this last weekend. But
yeah, I like the Heroes and Icons channel because I get to watch a whole day's worth of Star Trek all on one day. I mean, they play all like an episode from every show.
Yeah.
On Heroes and Icons. It's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I've rediscovered, you know, some of the things that I watched back when all of this stuff was new. I mean, I wasn't an ardent follower of Star Trek, but there were certain episodes that if I tuned in, I would sit and I'd be just like, wow, that was cool. Wow, that was cool. But now I'm at home now, and with Heroes and Icons, it's like I'm catching up, and I'm thinking, yeah, you know what? I'm liking this a whole lot more now than I used to. So it's I'm digging it.
Yeah, I think BBC America still plays, I think, Voyager. I don't know if they still play TNG or not. But Heroes and Icons, yeah, they run everything. They run the original series, Enterprise, DS9, although the whole gamut. So
yeah, it's great.
That's where they would get my money. They would get my money on a restart. Well, I should say restart. What happened to DS9?
Well, there is a documentary coming out this year because this being the 25th anniversary of Deep Space Nine, there is a documentary coming later this year. I was part of the Kickstarter for that, so I should be getting a digital copy, hopefully by the end of the year.
Cool.
They're making this huge documentary about the series, and we've been wanting this for a long time. And one thing I didn't know is that Adam Nimoy, which is Leonard Nimoy's son, he married Terry Farrell, who played Jadzia Dax on Deep Space Nine.
Yeah.
I didn't know this.
Coolness.
By the way,
what?
Terry Farrell on Deep Space Nine, that's Jadzia Dax, far hotter than Counselor Troy on Next Generation. Far hotter.
I don't know, Jeff. What about Ezri? You Jadzia or Ezri Dax?
I guess I'm more of a Terry Farrell fan. I'll admit that one.
Okay. Well, she had an intelligence about her.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously the wisdom of all her past hosts. So.
I just was never, I guess I was never sure, Counselor Deanna Troi would wore this outfit that you could tell what religion she was. But really, I don't know, everybody was always like, when I was kids, everybody like, oh, Counselor Troy, and I'm like, I don't get it.
I think Marina Sirtis did an adult film in her earlier acting days.
Oh, really? Well, okay. Well, okay.
Everyone's gonna look that up.
No.
Yeah. But no, obviously, because like Beverly Crusher, she was all about the mom kind of, if that's your thing, and if she obviously a redhead, but of course it was a wig. It wasn't a real.
Was it really?
Yes.
Didn't know that.
The redhead was a wig. Yes.
Wow.
And Denise Crosby is Tasha Yar. She died first season, but she came back kind of because it's science fiction. If you want to be sure your character comes back in a later episode, just kill the character and it'll come back because it's sci-fi.
I think, speaking of things coming back, apparently there's an Alf reboot coming.
Ha! I killed me.
Yeah.
Why?
Why?
Isn't the voice actor for Alf dead?
I don't know.
Yeah, he did.
I think the voice of Alf died.
Yeah, he passed on.
Yeah,
he did.
A couple years ago.
I'm curious to see if they're going to go puppet, if they're going to go
CG.
No, they got to go puppet, man. They got to go analog.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean,
business.
I did enjoy that.
I mean, it's already been animated, but that was during the lifetime of the show, though.
I remember the Alf animated series. It took place on his home planet.
Yeah,
right.
It wasn't nearly that good.
I remember watching a couple episodes as a kid, and I was amused by it, but I didn't go out of my way to see it.
Mm-hmm.
But Alf, no. But though now that I'm thinking about it, they pulled it off with the movie Ted.
Well,
they
yes,
could
they
do
did.
some scenes in CG, I think, with Alf. But I think for the most part, you just got to go full puppet on it.
Right. Speaking of full puppet, the Happy Time Murders.
Yeah, we talked about this last week.
All right. Now, I've been seeing some rushes on IG and on Facebook, and yes, the more and more they rush it, the more and more intrigued I am by it, and it's giving me the guilty giggles, actually.
Okay. Well, you'll have to give us a report on that when it comes out.
Yeah, if it comes to the theater, I'm going to see it.
Right. Well, it is coming to the theater. It's ironically the week you're supposedly going to Peoria with Julie.
Well, I'll just have to see it at a theater out there.
Speaking of coming back to the theater, holy crap on a stick. They're using this, and of course you know where I'm going with this.
No, I don't.
Okay, well they're using it to promote the Bumblebee movie because there'll be a sneak peek or whatever. But September of 2018, they were doing a screening of the original 1986 Transformers the movie.
Right.
And this being strange because this is the 32nd anniversary, where they could have just held out for like the 35th or something, like a round number or a number that's divisible by 5 would have been made more sense. But they're using this to promote the Bumblebee movie, but I don't care. I got a row. So, and that row is just about filled with my good friends. So we are going to go see the 86. I was fortunate enough to see the movie. I was 15 in 1986. I was fortunate enough to see the movie back in the day when it came out, because it was only in my local theater for like 1 week, and I got to see it, and that was a very it was a life-changing experience for me. Sad to say, but it was.
No, don't be sad to say. It was the light of the moment of your life. Nothing wrong with that.
It was the changing of the guard.
And that's the 27th of September, I take it?
27th of September, yes.
Well, do you still
But it's a Thursday night.
Well, it's a Thursday night. If I can get that night off from Electric Jungle, then do you think you got one more seat for yours truly?
Possible. It is very possible. How much money you got?
Well, let's see.
I'm just kidding. But the thing is, you'd have to take the train out to Crystal Lake. And then I'd have to put you back on the train that night because I got to work the next morning.
I wouldn't worry about that.
Well, anyway, we'll figure it out. We've got a month and a half to worry about it. But yes, that was the biggest news for me. So that was super cool. But that's all I got, actually, for this week. So I'm glad we've had a lot of this discussion about music to pad our discussion this week. Although I do have the only other, speaking of something, if we're still on the subject of space and all that you've heard about these mysterious radio signals that we've received from space?
No.
Okay, a mysterious radio signal has been spotted by a telescope in Canada, and is one of the lowest in frequency to date. Details of the signal were posted to the Astronomers Telegram, a website where accredited astronomers, those are space guys, that post observations. An observation posted last week by Patrick Boyle, no relation, from Canada's McGill University, finds a radio telescope called the Canadian Hydrogen Mapping Intensity Experiment, or CHIME. Discovered a fast radio burst, or FRB, which are short bursts of radio waves coming from beyond the Milky Way galaxy. It was detected as frequency as low as 580 megahertz, the lowest frequency detection to date. Now, the detection has not been independently verified, noting in the case of an Australian researcher who discovered a radio signal in 1998, only to find out 17 years later it came from a microwave oven.
Well, it's no less likely what happened in the Armstrong experiments way back in the early part of last century, that they were doing experiments trying to find radio waves in space.
Outer space, space.
This thing has been going on since the advent of radio itself, with Marconi and all the rest of the guys. And Armstrong, if my memory serves me, actually documented.
As long as we've been pointing telescopes to the heavens, and as long as we've had radio, we've been pointing radio telescopes to the heavens.
So, with that,
they're trying to find out if we're alone in the universe. I'm sorry, go ahead, Ivan. I keep interrupting. Go ahead.
No, that's okay. No, they're trying to find out, you're right, if we are not alone in the universe. I got a feeling we are not alone.
Oh, I'm sure we're not alone. They're just smart enough to leave us alone.
No, they're coming. They're going to challenge us to games like Galaga.
Or maybe they're already here, and we'll have to get those special sunglasses that Rowdy Piper wore.
Yes, Rowdy Piper. Yep.
Rest in peace, Piper.
Rest in peace, Rowdy.
It wasn't 3 years ago now.
Yeah, I think it is about 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Obviously, none of us went to Gen Con this year, but
sad face.
All of the pictures and whatnot, 65,000 a day.
Oof.
Taking over Indianapolis. I will say the coolest thing I saw from Gen Con, I just saw the other day. Actually, I saw it tonight before we got on the show. Somebody apparently must have talked to Hanna-Barbera. They are in the process of creating a Wacky Racers board game.
Well, the Wacky Racers cartoon is currently playing right now. And
is that on Boomerang?
Yes.
I need this game.
And so here we go on the whole Wacky Racers thing in Hanna-Barbera, which Hanna-Barbera was already sold. It's sold, they sold, and of course Warner Brother now runs it and owns it, lock, stock, and barrel, after Joseph Barbera passed away. I think it was in 2002. And
Ivan.
Yes.
Which came first, The Perils of Penelope Pitstop or The Wacky Races?
The Peril of Penelope Pitstop.
Okay, that's where they brought that from. Okay.
That's where Muttley and Dick Dastardly and all that came into play.
And the Anthill Mob and yeah.
Yep.
What was your favorite racer in The Wacky Races, Ivan?
My favorite I would have to say that I liked the old Dick Dastardly. In fact, I sent 2 box tops to Cheerios, and I got 2 model racers. I got the one that Penelope Pitstop drove, and then the one that Dick Dastardly rode.
Nice.
I got them in the mail. That was back when the series was on, a long ways away.
Yeah, I need this Wacky Races.
I can kick myself in the head for not holding on to those.
Wait, hold on a second.
I
was able to look this up on Wikipedia.
I need this game.
Did
you need this game. What?
I just went to look up Wacky Races on Wikipedia.
Uh-huh.
They rebooted it?
Yeah, it's been rebooted, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
I didn't like it.
I thought you were talking about the old episodes.
No, it's been rebooted. There's new episodes on right now, as we speak.
Yeah, I don't care for it.
That's crazy. I did not.
Yeah, but they knocked it down to a whole bunch of the races that they had, down to like 5 main characters, and 4 of them are the original characters, with one little, whiz kid that they decided to add on with the whole digital end of things, which personally is neither here nor there for me. So,
Do they bring in other characters for cameos, like other characters from the Warner Brothers Hanna-Barbera playlist? Like, will they? No,
not at all. No,
wow.
It's just the 5 racers every week, right?
Wow, that's a mistake. See, that was the part. That's always the part where they could go. Because could you imagine if they brought in Dexter from Dexter's Laboratory or something crazy like that?
Oh, man, if Johnny Bravo was a racer.
Yeah, Johnny Bravo or
or the Powerpuff Girls had their own race car.
Right, or the Foster's Imaginary Friends race car, or even stuff like the Harvey Birdman race car. Or,
oh, there you go. See,
yeah.
I mean, that would have been clever. That would have been good.
I mean, especially when you can reboot some of these things. Could you imagine the Space Ghost car? That would be hysterical.
Oh, that would be a scream.
Yeah, why? Wow, that's crazy.
My favorite racer was the Army Surplus Special.
The Army Surplus Special, I remember that.
I'm trying to find a list of all the cars.
If only we had some kind of metal box that connected to this thing, which is super information heavy.
Yeah, I'm working on it now. I'm working on it now. Okay, so apparently, according to this, I'm looking on MeTV, apparently there was 11 of the original Wacky Racers. So you had Dick Dastardly and Penelope Pitt, stuff we talked about, the Slag Brothers, which seems like the Captain Caveman's before.
Yeah.
Captain Caveman, right.
Yeah, this is, obviously they had to change the name for Britain. Or Europe.
One of my favorites, which is Luke Lazy and Blow a Bear and the Arkansas Chuggabug.
Yeah, that was a good one too.
He had a bear in the car with him.
See, here's ones I don't remember. Like Professor Pat Pending.
He had all the wacky inventions. Yeah, I remember him.
In the converter car.
Yeah.
I remember this: the gruesome twosome and the creepy coke and the creepy goop.
Yeah, I remember that.
That was kind of like a reboot of the Monster Mobile.
Yeah. And then I forgot about this. I forgot about the Sergeant Blast and Private Meekley in the Army Tank Surplus Special.
Yeah.
I forgot about the tank.
Yes.
Yep.
The tank.
I like that one. That was my favorite.
Obviously, the Anthill Mob. Wow, they rank these in the Anthill Mob's at 8. Why is the Anthill Mob at 8? Rufus, Roughcut, and Sawtooth in the Buzzwagon. I don't remember that at all.
I remember that. It was a log, and it was saws that made up the wheel.
Yeah, it was a lumberjack and a beaver.
Right, that's what she said.
I'm gonna watch these on YouTube, I think, tonight.
They were great episodes. The originals were.
I got two more. Red Max and the Crimson Hay Baler. Apparently, this is like a Red Baron.
Like a Red Baron, yeah.
Yes, the Red Baron, right.
And Peter Perfect and the Turbo Terrific. That's right. There was the one guy.
That was the drag racer. Yep.
So now that I'm looking at this, if they brought this back, why are they not bringing back whatchamacallit, which is the Laff-a-Lympics?
Oh, the Laff-a-Lympics, where they had everybody going against one another. All the characters were like in these Olympics.
Yeah, it was the
Yogi Bear and the Laff-a-Lympics.
It was the Really Rottens, the Yogi Yahooies, and the Scooby Doobies, right?
Yeah, right. I'm looking at it here.
That's right.
Yeah. I'm looking at it here. Yeah, the Scooby Doobies, which is Scooby-Doo, Shaggy, Scooby-Dum, Dino-Mutt, Blue Falcon, Captain Caveman, the girls from Captain Caveman.
Yeah, the Teen Angels, I think they call
Teen Angels.
Yeah, Speed Bucky, Tinker from Speed Buggy, Babu from Genie, because there was the I Dream of Genie cartoon.
Yeah.
Mr. Yackle Dackle, I remember that. And then obviously the most underrated character in all of Hanna-Barbera, and really in reality he should be back. Number one super guy, Hong Kong Phooey.
Hong Kong Phooey, yeah.
Rest in peace, Scatman Carruthers.
Thank you, Scat Man.
Well, the more and more I think about it, there is really a missed opportunity here. You could do like a Hanna-Barbera like super team, where you could do like Captain Caveman, Dynamite and Blue Falcon, Hong Kong Phooey. You could do stuff like that and put them together. Let's see, what do we got? Okay, so the Yogi Yahooies.
Yep.
Obviously, Yogi.
That was my team. I always rooted for the Yogi Yahooies.
Yeah, because he's smart.
Wasn't Peter Potamus part of that?
Yeah.
I'm looking right now. They got Yogi.
You got all the animals, pretty much.
Right, you've got Yogi, Boo Boo, Cindy, Huckleberry Hound, Pixie Dixie, Mr. Jinx, Hokey Wolf, Yacky Doodle?
Yacky Doodle, the duck.
Oh, okay. Quick Draw McGraw, Snooper, Blabber, Augie Doggy, Doggy Daddy, Wally Gator, and Grape Ape.
Yep.
Wow, yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Yep.
So, and then you had your bad guy team, which was the really rottens.
All the foils, yeah.
Yeah, so so obviously, Mumbly, Dread Bear, Icky Dalton, Dirty Dalton, Dastardly Dalton, Mr. Creepy, Mrs. Creeply, Junior Creeply, Orful Octopus, Great Fondue, Magic Rabbit, Daisy Mannheim, and Suey. Wait, what the heck happened? Where isn't Dick Dastardly?
Dick Dastardly was on it.
No, I don't think this actually was on that.
No? Really?
No.
Okay. Oh, all right. Okay. How many seasons did they do? Oh, 2. They did 2 seasons of this. But why? It's crazy. If you're going to bring back Wacky Races, why not do? Why not do the Laff-a-Lympics? I mean, they're rebooting a lot of the ideas. Although I bet of the bridge version of those cartoons.
Remember when they tried to reboot the Jetsons? They had that little alien buddy for Elroy, that Orbity.
Oh, guy? that springy puffball thing that was.
Yeah. Jeff remembers.
Yeah, Jeff remembers.
I want to forget. Obadobo. Well, hi, Mr. Spacely.
Jetson, come back in here.
Wasn't Mel Blanc Mr. Jetson? Or Mr. Spacely?
I don't know. Hold on.
I'm not sure.
I think Mel Blanc was the voice of Mr. Spacely.
Jetson!
Jetson! You're fired! And then somehow by the end of the episode he'd get his job back.
Yep.
And his rival, Cogswell, I think.
Cogsley's
Cogs, yeah. Man, Saturday morning cartoons, man.
I'm telling you.
No, George Jetson was, according to this, George Jetson for 75 episodes was George Hanlon. Now, why does this have...
George Hanlon was one of the standard voice guys for Hanna-Barbera for the longest time.
They do.
It's just like Arnold Stang, who did Top Cat, was one of the standard voice guys.
I remember Don Messick was Astro.
Right.
It's amazing how much there's so much stuff from that time frame from the 80s in terms of Hanna-Barbera material that doesn't get used. Like Speed Buggy, or Jabberjaw, or the Shmoo. I remember this.
Have you read any of these DC Hanna-Barbera crossovers? These comics?
Yeah, I've seen a few. I've heard them. I've heard good things.
I read number 1 of the Flintstones, and it was kind of a morbid take on life in the Stone Age. Like it flashes back to the first opening pages are present day, and you're in a museum you're looking at a caveman who's trapped in the ice. And it evolves around the story about one of Fred's coworkers trying to trying to appease the boss, Mr. Slate, and he falls into this tar pit or something or whatever, and then that's how he winds up in this museum.
Oh,
it's
wow.
kind of morbid, actually. But I know Mutual
sounds kind of a whole lot like a lot of different entryways to a few really bad films.
I know a mutual friend of ours, Ivan Tessman. He enjoys the Scooby-Doo Apocalypse.
Okay.
Where he says that's a good series too, and they made news recently in comic book world because they killed Fred.
Ooh.
Because this is the zombie apocalypse or whatever, and
right.
And Scooby-Doo communicates through emojis.
Okay.
And Velma is the super science nerd, and Daphne is the reporter, and I don't know what Shaggy's role is, but yeah, it's really in depth and really gritty, and I've heard good things about it.
Well, it seems like the franchise in of itself seems like through what you're telling me now is just going to yet another makeover. I mean, it's been probably the most constant thing that's been out there since 1969 when Scooby-Doo first appeared on our television screens. That's how long it's been on.
Yeah.
And it's been recreated, reincarnated, has lived through several studio changes, and movies have been spawned from it. Comic books have been drawn from them. Merchandising is through the roof. It's probably one of the most viable things that are still out there in the animation world, next to what you would say The Simpsons or some of the other long-standing cartoons. I mean, up to this point. And yeah, it's amazing the long lastingness of the old cartoons, the old Hanna-Barbera cartoons, which were they're made for television sensibilities that they had. I mean, they dominated Saturday morning cartoons when I was growing up.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, yeah. Well, then they were putting Warner Brothers, the Looney Tunes on TV.
The Looney Tunes, okay, the sensibility of Looney Tunes as a television enterprise happened after the fact because they were leasing the Looney Tunes cartoons from the theatrical cartoons for the longest time.
Right.
And basically Warner Brothers was just repackaging them in some regard. There was even a low-budget Porky Pig show on for a while, which if you were to see episodes from that thing, you would say, who in the hell made these? And it's really low budget stuff.
And you remember when they rebooted Looney Tunes to make it all edgy?
Yes, I remember that.
Yeah, that was another failed reboot.
Exactly. And then you know
what's funny? You know what was a good reboot for them?
What's that?
And the only reason I think they haven't continued on is because it's Spielberg, which was the Tiny Toons.
Tiny Toons was fabulous. I love the Tiny Toons.
And they did the smartest thing they could do, which was they kept the old characters, they kept them where they were at, and they basically made them all teaching these classes and all this stuff for generation. And I thought it was a cool idea because you could bring in the original characters, and they could just be themselves and not have and just do what they do. And I gotta be honest, Spielberg made some great cartoons.
Okay, the Animaniacs.
Right. Well, between Animaniacs, Pinky and the Brain, Tiny Toons, and the truly underrated Freakazoid.
Yeah.
Yes.
My nephew loved that show growing up.
Oh, Freakazoid is hysterical. Freakazoid. Yeah. If you can find, I think it's still out on YouTube. I think you can still find Freakazoid.
Oh yeah.
And it's a stitch.
Yeah, I know. We want to promote our podcast, and we appreciate you listening to our podcast. But you know what? I listened to another podcast where it's called Talkin' Tunes with Ron Paulson, and he's the voice of one of the Tiny Toons, and he is most famous, obviously, to me for the voice of Arthur from The Tick. But he has his own podcast called Talkin' Tunes, and I love it. He interviews a voice actor, and they talk about animation or back in the day or whatever every week. It's a great series, a great podcast.
And of course, in the Animaniacs, okay, you had several other cartoons that appeared with the Animaniacs. I mean, you had the Pigeons, right? And then you had
the Goodfellas remake.
Right. And then the little used Minerva Minx, which if you go online today, there are people who are still to this day drawing Minerva Minx, and that was probably as close to pushing the censors as they got.
And Chicken Boo, what's wrong with you?
Yep.
Yeah, they had some good stuff on that show. You had.
It was a great show.
Yeah.
And the best part is when are they? The reboot is on the way. Or the restart is on the way. I can't remember the date, but they've announced it. They're making new episodes.
Well, there was the Bugs Bunny show that they rebooted for a while, and unfortunately, they made Lola Bunny this dim-witted character, which totally turned me off. Which I was just,
the same Lola Bunny from Space Jam.
Yes, there is I mean, there was a few episodes of the new Bugs Bunny show, and they tried to stay within the realms of PC while trying to still make it wacky enough so that way you watch it. But then on some other points here, they took an iconic character in Lola Bunny who made quite the stir in Space Jam and then reconfigured her for the Bugs Bunny show, and she's a total dimwit, and it's so sad. They could have done so much more with that character, and they totally put her face in the mud. It really, really is very dismaying.
Well, we'll see, because they're talking about a new Space Jam movie with LeBron James. So we'll see. Let's hope they bring the Lola Bunny from Space Jam back into that Space Jam. Because I'll tell you what, I mean, having seen that with Michael Jordan, it's one of the better movie-going, live action animated experiences I've seen.
Is Mel Blanc's son still voicing Bugs?
I'm not sure. But FYI, starting in 2020, 2 seasons of brand new Animaniacs on Hulu. I finally have a reason why I might want to get Hulu. I might finally have a reason why I want to go watch Hulu. Apparently they're bringing all of that back.
Okay.
Well, I hope they do bring that back because I would definitely watch it. And I would spend my money on Hulu to watch the Animaniacs. It was a great show. I would definitely watch Tiny Toons again. It was a great show. Spielberg did make a good cartoon. Let's face it.
Well,
for much of the dross that has become, I sit there and I shake my head, and I watch Boomerang when I have the opportunity to watch, and it's just I just don't know. A lot of the cartoons today kind of lack something in the presentation, and a lot of it almost looks identical to one another now. It's like they got everything is shrinking down to one animation house, and they all seem to have that same type of animated stature about them. So I'm just kind of at a loss, really.
Yeah, I'll be honest, I haven't watched Cartoon Network in a long time, and that includes Adult Swim. I stopped watching Adult Swim a long time ago too, and
well, I did too. It got pretty, the well got dry.
I'd occasionally just to watch for Robot Chicken or King of the Hill.
Right. I mean,
I like Futurama, and I enjoyed Aqua Teen Hunger Force.
I like Futurama.
Aqua Teen Hunger Force was good for a period of time, but after a while there was just something where I was like, okay, I'm just trying to keep up as to when it was on was just a pain sometimes.
I think the voice of Frylock just made news because he was broke or something.
Is he really? Wow,
yeah.
That's sad.
That show, there's one episode on there that is one of my favorite all-time cartoon episodes, which is did you guys ever watch the show, the one about the Brood Witch?
No.
Oh my god. So the Brood Witch is this sandwich that it's like the sandwich from hell. Hell created the sandwich and you have to eat it. It's from so Shake discovers it, and basically it's I'm trying to remember what's on there. Here we go. It actually talks which is it tells everyone that it was forged in the darkness of wheat harvest in a hell's half acre, baked by Beelzebub, slathered in mayonnaise from evil eggs of a powerful dark chicken, beaten into sauce by the hands of a one-eyed madman, with cheese boiled from the rancid teeth of a three-headed fanged cow, and layered with 66 separate meats from the animal, which has maggots for blood. It also has lettuce. It also has lettuce and Dijon mustard. It also has, by the way, sun-dried tomatoes. I know this because Jake doesn't eat the entire sandwich because he doesn't like sun-dried tomatoes. The best is when Shake asks about bacon. There's no bacon on it. He's told there's no swine evil enough to be sacrificed upon a bed of evil and lettuce.
Okay.
I'm telling you, this episode is one of
the standouts.
Honestly, it may be the best of, in my opinion, it's probably the best of the Aqua Teen Hunger Force episodes.
I miss those early days of Adult Swim, like with C-Lab and Harvey Birdman, Attorney at Law.
Space Ghost, Coast to Coast.
Yeah, Space Ghost Coast to Coast was good stuff.
Brack was my hero.
That was great.
Brack had his own show for one season, I think.
Yes, he did.
The Brack Show.
Brack Show. Yep.
Yeah.
We do have some actual other geek comic stuff. It's been announced that apparently there's a writer for a Supergirl movie.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm kind of sitting there. I guess the theory is this is okay. The way we can backdoor bring back Superman in some ways, and not have a Superman movie, and maybe kind of reboot the series. I don't know. To me, I'm kind of like sitting here thinking about it. And I'm like, boy, you have a phenomenal actress playing Supergirl now, but they're going to look for somebody else to play the movie version. You know that.
Yeah, that usually happens.
So I don't know. I mean, I think I'd be more excited if it wasn't for the fact that you've got good enough product right now. But I guess that's the move. The other thing is, Mike, I don't know if you caught this. Is with Dave Bautista.
Oh my goodness. I don't want to touch too much about this whole James Gunn thing because it's still going on today. I don't want to be talking about this for 3 weeks. But Dave Bautista used the word nauseating to describe...
It's gone beyond that. He has now said that if they decide to go a different direction and don't use James Gunn's script, where is it? I put it up on our feed. If people are looking to look for cool stuff, you can always go to our feed, which is Squares of the Roundtable Podcast on Facebook. I put this up today on our feed about that. Dave Bautista will quit Guardians 3 if the James Gunn script isn't used.
Okay. I think he already wrote the story. He wrote the script.
Oh my god, somebody's buzzer's dying or something.
No, it's on Ivan's end. It's his air conditioner.
Ivan's air conditioner.
Okay, I shut it down, sorry.
Okay, yeah. They're gonna use James Gunn's script. We'll see. Well, we don't know yet, so we'll see.
Actually, don't know if they're gonna use the script. I mean,
but earlier today I read the headline that he used the word nauseating to describe working for Disney in light of the whole James Gunn debacle. We'll see. But he's He's a beloved character, part of the Guardians Galaxy. I don't know this. If there's time, there's obviously they've already filmed Avengers 4. If there's time to reboot, they can continue the Guardians of the Galaxy, because I think this was the third one they were going to use with the original cast for Guardians, and then if it's going to continue in another way or whatever, so we'll see. But
I think that's the rumor that's out there now is that they might just reboot the series where it's at and start and make volume 3 the restart versus basically go to a trilogy. And if that's the case, that's where Dave Bautista's coming from. And in fairness, I think it's pretty ballsy considering the fact that Disney just bought Fox. And, when you're talking about big time studios, the world just got a lot smaller for that. And to me, you say stuff about like this about Disney. We don't know if Century 21 Fox is going to exist or not as its own movie house. And really, in reality, if you're mad at Disney and they bought them, what are your odds of working with them? Suddenly it starts to get to be a smaller world. That said, hold on there, Ivan. But here's the interesting part. With Bautista, he's always got the one ace up his sleeve as a crutch, at least for now, which is that if tomorrow he couldn't get work in Hollywood, he could show up in a WWE arena and make big money. Could make big money right now. And with the WWE now having their own movie studios, you know what? They'll bankroll him. They'll put him in movies. So, I mean, it's almost like he's got a bankable thing no matter how this goes.
Well, we'll see how this all unfolds, but until then, it's all still speculation.
Ivan, you were going to say something?
Well, I was going to say is, much like what Disney does with Touchstone Pictures, and
when was the last Touchstone movie that came out?
I don't know.
Why were you constantly going back to Touchstone?
Wait. Well, listen to what I'm going to say.
Okay, I'm listening now.
Okay, and what that is because Touchstone, they put all of their grittier stuff, Disney put all their grittier stuff on Touchstone. Do you think that maybe Disney will retain the 20th Century Fox namesake for some of their grittier fare just to keep it separate from their Disney squeaky clean image?
I don't know. And keep in mind, Ivan, not only do they own Touchstone, Disney owns Miramax, and Miramax has been one of those properties for them too.
Well, right. But I'm just saying that this is not the first go-around for Disney owning other studios or underwriting other studios for different types of projects. I mean, will 20th Century Fox cease to exist or will exist? That would pretty much be in the hands of what Disney wants to do with it. Now, they own all of the 20th Century Fox properties and such, so a whole lot of renaming is going to start taking place in any future properties that happen now that they own 20th Century Fox.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. I like I said, we'll see where it goes. I just, there's to me, like I said, with this whole thing, Mike, there's two directions, which is you laud somebody for having the conviction like this, but I just question whether he's slitting his own career.
No.
Do you think he's cutting his own throat to save his face?
Maybe. I don't know. I mean, like I said, maybe he can work independent films. Like I said, as long as he's still in that window where if he showed up in the WWE tomorrow, he could make big money, and they would be and he would make a lot of money for them, and he'd make a lot of money for himself. But he's getting older, and those days at some point will pass by. Mm-hmm. And we'll see. As a matter of fact, there's been talk recently that The Rock is talking about popping back into the ring one more time. This may be the last hurrah for The Rock in a ring, that we might see him at WrestleMania 35. But But again, we hear this stuff almost yearly.
Yeah, the rumor mill tends to keep
Turning
out
that
its
on.
old stuff. Yeah.
Well, in fairness, if they were going to do, it didn't work out last year when Ronda Rousey showed up in the WWE. There was a segment in WrestleMania a few years earlier in which The Rock came out and he got into it with Stephanie McMahon and Triple H, Hunter Hearst Helmsley, and Stephanie basically got in The Rock's face and she was like, "There's nothing you can do much about it." And then they pulled Ronda Rousey out of the crowd, and it was The Rock and Ronda Rousey basically squaring off against Hunter and Stephanie. And it would have been nice to have seen that last year, but my understanding is that there was problems with getting The Rock, so instead they went with Kurt Angle. And they still did really well with it, and it went really, really well, but I don't know if maybe they missed their boat with The Rock on that or not. So.
Okay, interesting.
The only other thing I had, gentlemen, was Dan DiDio, who is the editor-in-chief, one of the editors-in-chiefs for DC Comics, apparently made a comment about oversaturation in the direct market for comics.
Yeah, well, you just talked about this just before the San Diego Comic-Con episode about how maybe there's just too many superhero movies.
Well, no, they're not talking about the movies. They're talking about comics.
Oh, too many comics.
They're talking about the actual comics.
Too many books. Okay.
The actual books. He's talking about apparently the amount of books that are getting published out there is oversaturating the market. According to this, this is from DiDio. If you're looking at the numbers, you're looking at 400 new periodicals a month. I can't even imagine the number of collections that come out a month. It's overwhelming.
It's impossible to be a completist these days.
Well, here's the thing. Like, according to Diamond, who distributes, in June 2018, DC had 73 original comic books out to Marvel's 83 for the North American direct market, and as a whole, there were 437 original comic book options that month.
Yeah, and that's just the big two. You don't know about Image or Dark Horse or any other indie.
Well, I think that includes the 73 and the 83. What I'm curious about on the 73 and the 83, if that includes things like Vertigo, or if that includes some of those other imprints. Because if they don't, are even larger than that.
Those numbers are even higher than if they're not including the independent then.
Right, but 437 for the entire industry in the month of June.
That's a lot of books.
Yeah, there's been a lot, but that hasn't changed.
Just a lot of options out there.
I just think it's interesting because I love how DiDio kind of spins this. He talks about how he kind of pushes this about new companies and how they're not slow startup and they're coming right out of the gate and all this stuff. But here's the thing. Like we just saw, DC's got 73 new titles coming out. Marvel's got 83. Okay?
That's concurrent series.
Right. But that's the thing I kind of laugh about is okay, well, here's an idea. You guys could print less. You don't see, they're not going to do that though. They're complaining about all the other, they're talking about everybody else. They won't stop printing because they're the big boys.
Ivan, step away from the air conditioner.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
They'll still print with the big boys will still print what they're going to print. And the other thing I think DiDio forgets is that at this point in time, comic books is in a different place than it was even 3-4 years ago. Which is, a lot of these guys are making books with the idea being that they can then use them as treatments to do something beyond that, like TV or movies or something along those lines. So I don't expect I expect there to continue to be a lot of product out there. And in fairness, this is where your local library is huge. Libraries are buying up collections in terms of graphic novels, and you take advantage of it because before you go out and buy, because there is a ton of product out there now. But I'd rather have a ton of product than what there used to be, which is, okay, here's the 50 titles that are out this month.
Yeah, it's better to have too much than not enough. I agree with that.
No, I agree with you on that too, and also the angle of these books becoming treatments for screenplays, be it television or be it motion picture, is very much a possibility within that realm. Isn't that how a lot of movies get created anyway?
Well, now it seems to be a direction. It's not,
I think that there have been many cases where a graphic novel has been translated into some kind of film medium, be it television or be it motion pictures, and then of course, as in the case of Batman, which has been put into celluloid as early as 1942, Superman was put in celluloid right out of the gate in 1939 with the Fleischer brothers. So yes, as far as like all the comic books being out there and the fact that they could be the treatments to future motion pictures and such, that is definitely a possibility. And to have more than less, it'd be a great thing.
Speaking of superheroes, Jeff, did you catch any pictures? Did they do a big cosplay parade at Gen Con this weekend?
Yes, they did. There are quite a few. There was quite the few out there. If you go to the Gen Con page, you can look at it. But real fast, just to get to Ivan's point, I don't want to, because I was looking this up. One of the big examples that of how crazy this has gotten was, you guys remember that movie Cowboys and Aliens?
Yes, I do. Daniel Craig.
Right.
It wasn't a very good movie.
That was originally a graphic novel. That was a graphic novel that came out in 2006. It was about 105 pages. And what happened was, they found a way. I'll kind of read it straight from Wikipedia. In order to make Cowboys and Aliens appear to be a big seller, they priced the 105-page book at a low cost of $4.99 when most graphic novels were $10 and up. Platinum attempted to game the system in various other ways, including using a business arrangement with a popular publisher, Top Cow, to list Cowboys and Aliens in the Top Cow section of the Diamond Comics distributor's catalog. They also gave retailers huge bulk discounts on the book, all of which counted towards sales numbers. Based on these inflated numbers, that is the reason why this ever got to be a movie. Is essentially they had this huge top seller month, and Universal DreamWorks looked at it and said, "Oh, we should buy that." And the reason I bring it up is that's kind of been, it hasn't gotten to that level of ridiculousness, but there is a lot out there where it's along those lines where you don't need the kind of numbers like DC and Marvel do to
have a movie happy, to make a movie happen or to make a series happen.
Like Robert Kirkman with Walking Dead. I don't think, off the top of my head, in its heyday, and when I say heyday, I mean the comic, I don't know that the print run was any bigger than 25,000 books.
But yet, look at what The Walking Dead did.
Right, that's my point.
And also not only in the realms of motion pictures and television, but even in gameplay, in video play, in pinball.
Sure. Well, and that's my point. My point is that you don't have to sell a ton of these issues. You look at a guy like Kirkman, and Kirkman just signed a huge deal with Amazon. Huge deal. To create programming. And, this is a guy who, for a while, at one point was working for Marvel. He did Marvel Zombies, and then he went off to do The Walking Dead. And the rest has been history. And he's done some other books, too, and there's some other pieces that are out there that he does. But a guy like Mark Miller, who is the reason why Civil War exists, He was the person who created Civil War. He created some amazing stories for DC Comics as well as Marvel. But the guy just signed a huge deal with Netflix. Matter of fact, Netflix is going to do their own comic imprint with him as a result. But there's a whole bunch of brand new programming that you're going to get based on Mark Millar. And for people who aren't aware, that's the guy who gave you Wanted, that's the guy who gave you Kick-Ass, that's the guy who gave you Kingsman. And,
right.
and these guys have written their own ticket to where they have generational wealth, and it all started from doing a comic book. And to think that there aren't a bunch of people out there that aren't looking at that going, well, that wait a minute, why can't that be me? You got another thing coming. You know, that's where this industry has gotten at this point. So to your point, Mike, about the oversaturation of movies, I don't see that changing, especially when, you know, people are looking for stuff that sells. And how easy is it to sit there and go, well, okay, if this comic book has a decent print run of a decent size, let's give it a shot.
Yeah, but until these movies stop making money, then they're going to keep doing it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. But
I think that'll wrap it up.
Yeah, except well, we could wrap it up. I could also tell you about two old guys at Costco who got into a fight while they were dealing with the sampling tray.
All right, we'll close that up. Okay. Yeah, I saw the headline from that. Was that in North Carolina?
Or something like that. Or do we want to talk about the guy who apparently entered into somebody's house, got naked, and then ate one of their sandwiches?
I think you pretty much summed it up. Let's talk about the fight for the free food.
Mike tried to be family friendly today, I see.
That's right. We need more articles about condoms, dagnabbit.
Yeah.
Where's my pictures of Spider-Man? And where's the condom articles?
Condom Man? Now there's an idea.
Somebody need to make that book.
Condom Man!
Yeah, really. Okay, so I'm pulling it up now.
Trey Parker had Orgasmo, so.
Then it was Pistol.
So you're in the right vicinity, Greenville, South Carolina.
Okay.
A fight between seniors over free food, leading to police to be called. Apparently, at a Costco, a 70-year-old man was waiting for his complimentary bite-sized chunk of cheese when a second man, senior citizen, 72 years old, in a Hawaiian shirt cut ahead of him, snatched the cheese and walked off.
The monster.
Okay. Shortly after the 70-year-old man was waiting for a cheeseburger sample at another stand when the same man approached, still fuming about the first encounter. The 70-year-old told the other senior that he could get in front of him because he knew he would just cut in line anyway. Angry words were exchanged, and then the Hawaiian shirt guy suddenly punched the other man.
What do you got there, Ivan?
The man later told officers that the other senior was balling his fist, and he thought he was about to be hit, so he smacked him instead. Here's the best. This is the cheeseburger stand worker from Costco confirmed that the 70-year-old man's account had said that the punch made a large sound and that the younger man's hat flew off his head. No charges were filed. So I guess here's the question. Would you ever get into a fight? I'm sorry, I'm a fat guy. If somebody cuts in front of me for samples, you're in big trouble.
Well, it would have to depend on what it is that they're sampling.
Cheeseburger? Oh, man. Somebody walks in front of me to get the cheeseburger, you got problems.
He's going down, bro.
Yeah, you're going
down. You're going down.
Yeah, man.
In fairness, I gotta be honest with you. For me, it doesn't even have to be a cheeseburger. It doesn't have to be a cheeseburger. It could be as simple as cheese. I mean, cheese is good.
Yeah, cheese is
good.
Yes, we like cheese.
I do have one more piece. This is breaking news. Researchers conclude that men with beer bellies get more women and live longer.
I see about living longer. I see about the whole theory about living longer because if they've got stored fat, that's extra fuel. Like these skinny
Yeah,
little
and it shields you from the cold, so
That's
you'll
right.
never get
Well,
hypothermia.
so here's the deal, gentlemen. According to a study from the British newspaper, researchers, the Daily Telegraph, researchers of Yale have proven this in a new study. A man's attractiveness can be enhanced if he's older, has children. As per the same study, the researchers say this has nothing to do with the underlying daddy complex, or more to do with evolution. The findings suggest that men already have children, indicates that women that are fertile, wait, this is not going the direction we want to go. The very same study appears to point towards the fact that more body fat means a man will be more focused on his family. As a direct result of this combination, chances of him finding another woman are subsequently leaving are lowered. So apparently...
Yeah, you got a guy with a ripped six-pack. He's not going to think about getting a house and mowing the grass. He's just going to be a gigolo.
He's thinking about mowing a different lawn.
That's right. Or a landing strip
Yeah,
or whatever.
but then you got the big guy who will go in the kitchen and make a wonderful meal for his woman.
And eat popcorn.
And eat popcorn. I love popcorn. It's enjoyable. You guys, I enjoy you.
Well,
Yeah.
we hope you found this episode of the Squares of the Round Table enjoyable this evening. We appreciate you listening. We are on Instagram and Twitter at SOTRT Podcast, and we're also on Facebook. We appreciate you. And yes, the gears are turning. We are getting ourselves on the internet other than YouTube. We'd also very much appreciate you listening on YouTube.
Yes.
Give us a like, give us a subscribe. We really, really love you for it. But yes, we're getting out there. We're going to the podcast hosting sites very soon. The wheels are turning. In the back. Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain, because it's all good. Yeah, man.
Just remember, the CDC says you can reuse us.
That's right. Very much
That's right.
so. Very much so indeed. On behalf of Jeff Stein.
Have a good week, everybody.
And Ivan Rivera.
Hey, have a good week. Catch up with you next time.
Yeah, man. We will listen to you. Well, we will listen to... Edit point. I've been drinking.
Yeah, you are.
We'll catch you next time on the Squares of the Round Table podcast. We appreciate you. Hey, and we'll catch you next time. Thanks for listening.